Hello and welcome to Unveiling Reality. How's everybody doing this evening? New time tonight, so we are going to kind of walk this one in a little bit. Hey, how you doing, Suzanne? Great to see you. Thank you for being here. I'm just going to give everybody a chance to find us here and just chit chat for a minute. Hope everybody's having a great day. Um, yeah, new time frame. We're going to try this one out and see how we do. Um, it's just I think this is a good warm up to some of the nightly shows that are going on now, and you got to kind of parse out your experience here online. I say always, kind of alternate between learning something and then doing something. There's a lot of hanging out going on, but there's also an opportunity to learn and be part of things as well. And when you can kind of have these options, different points in the day, I think that kind of helps out. So, yeah, right now, just kind of chilling and letting everybody roll in here. But yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about how destabilization is a mechanism for control, and we're going to go through a lot of examples of that, and kind of just refresh ourselves on the board a little bit, and kind of get into the mindset. Now we're going to go into. Oh, is that what's going on right now? Is that going on? Who's Are they actually showing it right now, Suzanne? Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. Who do you want to stream snipe? let's let's stream snipe somebody. Why not? Where's the conclusion? I saw it earlier today when they broke. And is Arcada still rolling? Um, I don't see anybody rolling on this right now. Who's uh who's watching it? Who's watching it? Let's see. I don't see it. Who's covering it? Hey, how's it going? How's it going, Caitlin? Hey, Chris, how you doing? See what elaborate for me. Um, let's see. It's over for the day. Okay, yeah. See, I thought it was over for the day. I was watching it earlier, and that's a good example of kind of like sums it all up, doesn't it? It's like it disrupts everything in society. Here we have a person who is obviously into some very crazy type of activities, and also really much high on the drugs, man. High on the drugs. The expert. Is he on right now? I was gonna throw this stream over to his if he's gonna be on later. Um, see if I can find him. Yeah. The verdict. Yeah, it just ended 21 minutes ago, so he's done with that for the day. I guess they'll all be back tomorrow for the conclusion of it. I haven't been covering it, but I will cover the outlying issues on it for sure. India is cutting exports to see and seeing media reports of panic buying starting. Okay. Wow. I wonder why is it cutting its exports? Just because they're having issues over there, or is it kind of like a strategic move? I'm roboting? Yeah, I see a little bit of I see a little bit of that going on my end. I'm not sure why. Uh, let me see if I got everything cut off here. Shut this down. Oh wait, I see an issue here. Is that still on? I shouldn't be on. Cut that off. Yeah, I haven't looked at this in a second. My computer rebooted. There's always things I got to turn off when I restart. Um, oh, I didn't do the upgrade on the NVIDIA. They put one out like every week. Is it better? Let me hear. Let me see. Let me check on this real quick. I got some earphones on. Okay, sounds like it's better. Yeah. All right. Something must have been snagging it. All right, good. Thanks for hanging with me. Hey, Chibi Flair, how you doing? How you doing? Yeah, it's weird because I don't have like a connection's unstable, but I don't have it. I'm not on Wi-Fi, so I don't understand why that happens. Let me start closing stuff. Just try. All right. Oh, we'll get through. It usually clears up. Let's see, if you're on Wi-Fi, try plugging into your router. Now plugged into my router, so yeah, it has to be on their end, and hopefully something better comes along that we don't have to worry about this stuff too much. Because it does tend to be a little bit of a distraction, huh? How's everybody doing? Let's talk. Let's talk. Um, I'll keep an eye on it. I don't know if I can do anything to I'm back. I think I'm back. Okay. Let me check. Make sure. Yeah, so that's weird. The power just went off and then came back on. Seem to be getting connections across the board here. Can you guys is anybody out there? Yeah, that's crazy, huh? It just flickered right before all that happened. It's almost like they were like, well, let's just reset all the power. Let's see how we're doing over here. Are we still on Rumble? Yep. Okay, we're back. Wow, that's good. At least at least it's not all gone. Yeah, all kinds of craziness here. Yep. Awesome. Hopefully people come back. Hey, Daisy, how you doing? How you doing? All right, speed back up here. All right. So where were we? Where were we? Oh yeah, we're talking about how destabilization is a system of control, right? Yeah, echoing, but we hear you. Let's see what's hold on. What's echoing? Close that. Oh yeah, this this. Am I good? Am I good? You guys hear me? Yeah, I just undid something and it kind of like went whoop, put me on back. Okay, good. Check, 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 check. It seems really low though. Let me check the audio. Oh yeah, let me change this to this. That should be much better, right? Yeah, it like reset everything. That's crazy. Craziness. All right, we made it work. Made it work. So yeah, we're gonna look at some different avenues here. Let me pull this up while I still can. Now, hey, look, if it goes back out again, I'll try to get back in as soon as possible, but look to the mods for I'll be communicating the mods and people and I can get through to on Discord to relay the message as to whether it came back on or not. It does look like that afternoon kind of showerishy kind of look out here, but we'll see. Let me go ahead and pull up the board. All right, so we're talking about the system of destabilization, right? We're looking at this area, this progression here from demoralization to destabilization, right? And within this group of things right here, this group of ideas and this divide, right? There's a lot of this going on. So when we're divided, we're destabilized. When there's systems that are meant to abuse us by either lying to us or deceiving us or co-opting us or controlling the narratives that we live in, or trying to control our speech or trying to turn our ideas into that of dependency, right? Um, controlling us economically, spiritually, putting fear into our lives, putting complications into our lives, messing with our identities. These are all systems of abuse. And yet we look at these like ordinary things and we say, well, these things are just part of life. That's just the way it goes. But really, underlying all this, do you think that these are ancient problems, or do you think these are problems that have to do with corruption and people that want to maintain power? Right now, we can look at that from a second veil point of view and say, well, it's because of this or that, or these guys, right? Which I'm finding out more people believe in than I thought. Um, it's because they lie to us. It's because they don't tell us the truth. It's because they're doing things to the water and the air. It's because it's all these just because, right? And really, what this is a land of no solutions, right? Because you're not supposed to have any solutions. You're supposed to turn to government for solutions. You're supposed to turn to the elitists who know better for the solutions and just go about your daily business of being the infrastructure class or being the despot class. It's something we've talked about before too. briefly made this pyramid to kind of show that just the other way of looking at the structure of the society, like breaking it down into like a bigger, wider groups, right? Because it really is just the establishment versus the rest of us. And that's the idea that I'm trying to get across here, especially as 2024 approaches, which, by the way, I will announce tonight there will be a new show coming. It's going to be called 2024 Anti-Establishment 2024, something like that. Probably just 2024. It just depends. And we're going to be breaking down the importance of keeping our eye on the ball during this election and remembering why we what we need what's important, right? As they start throwing candidates at us, as they start throwing these different campaigns at us, uh and throwing it at everybody else, by the way, to keep our eye on the ball and remember what's important in this fight. And I'm starting to break it down like this. I know I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but I want to share it with you guys. What have you? The is this anti-establishment coalition, right? And within this, I'm seeing like there's three pillars really that go along with being what you consider anti-establishment these days. I'm trying to break these down a little bit. Well, government integrity is one of them, right? We can't ignore the fact that there's a power structure called government and that it's complete control of everything right now. If it's corrupted, then everything's going to be corrupt. And unfortunately, we've let the corruption go on so long because of this, because we've been molded into this narrative from day one. This right here, right? That there's this left right paradigm, which until recent elections hasn't actually been a true paradigm. We haven't really had a real choice or real opposition. We've had the appearance of it, like a WWE wrestling match, right? And so and the importance of keeping the government, we've always turned around and said, okay, well, did you guys take care of it? And that's the attitude still of a lot of people, is that we're going to rely on the government to solve the problems, right? Even these guys, right? In some cases, it's like no government then, in this area, the Second Vale area. But yeah, most people live under this, even if they acknowledge it, still live under the idea that government's somehow got to fix everything for them, right? Even with this upcoming election, you'll hear all these guys get up there and talk about how they're going to fix everything with government. And the truth is that that's just one part of the the task here. That's just one thing that we got to do. Because if we don't, if we go in there and get a bunch of people elected that we like and say everything goes perfectly, right? How is that going to fix the rest of this, right? How is this going to protect the future and protect it from happening again, right? What are we doing to make sure of that? How is it going to create a culture of freedom and a parallel? I guess I should put parallel economy too. It's like, I say I didn't know the right word for this. I want to say parallel, but I want to say, um, but I also want to say, let's just say para economy, but I want to say, like a true economy, like a free market economy, right? So let's just say free market economy, a true one. So, probably spelled that wrong. All right, true. Let's say true free market economy, creating true culture, like a real culture. I guess that's one thing, the way to say it. Like, so you could break this down, and I'll go into more of this on that show. But this is what I'm working on, right? This is the structure of it, and it's going to be like, okay, so shows like repairing history. We talk about education, the generational warfare that's going on. How do we counteract that? What do we do to change that? Well, it's going to be a long process, but that's where, if you fall into this vein, right, of interest, that's how you can be part of this anti-establishment coalition, right? So how you can be putting your energy towards what can matter. Peripheral, yeah, usually, yeah. Yeah, it helps me too. And then you can look at like something like what Tim Pool's kind of promoting these days, and he has been for a while. His, parallel economy, creating culture, the culture war kind of stuff, right? I didn't want to say culture war, but that's pretty much what that is, right? So creating like Sound of Freedom, right? Like that's a good example of creating culture, right? Creating a true free market. So a smaller studio has a chance to fight and put their stuff out there and go to into competition with the bigger ones, right? The ones that have been there forever. So that's a good sign of that kind of stuff going on. And that needs to be happening. But without doing this and this is no good, right? Without doing this and this isn't effective, right? Because if we live in corruption and we are allowed to have our narratives and our cultures skewed and twisted and torn apart, the future isn't going to, reforming the future is just going to be more of, being absorbed with this and that, right? I'm talking like from a corrupted point of view. Now, if we can keep the integrity high on these areas, then all three of this is pushing back against the establishment and what they're doing right now. And we'll dive into that more. But I just kind of want to give you guys a preview on that and what that means. Well, part of that is also realizing what is driving the corruption, and that's why we talk about on this show, like what's driving the corruption and what's driving the different types of mind control or uh, let me spread that out a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Mind control and disruption, right? And what we're talking about specifically tonight is this destabilization that happens when everything is kind of like everybody's kind of at odds and divided, demoralized from early on. We have this manufactured division going on, and we see that nobody can come to reasonable conclusions. Even people that don't have a trust for any of this stuff over here, right? It's a lot of their ideas are like, hey, turn against the anti-establishment, turn against anything, any kind of real opposition, because it's all this and it's all that because it has to do with money and they don't have any, right? And so they always look at it like that as a difference in money, but it's not really that because these people that have the all the money and all the power and all the control, right? They sit way over here outside the reach of these people. They can't get to them, right? And they fund these things, and these little mechanisms right here are like the source of a lot of traumatic abuse. It causes crimes like this to business girl to lose her mind, because she's been highly drugged up and been highly manipulated by culture. And these institutions that lie in this area, right, are the ones that we can focus on to make a difference in how they're influencing the rest of everybody else, right? So a lot of times we're so focused on trying to figure out the who, right? We know the who or the what in these areas, or we're just going along with the governmental fix it approach, right? And we're not concerned about things like what's happening to the kids. We're not concerned about, whether this stuff deserves even to be even have a place in society, like this CRT, the racism, wokeism, all this stuff like that. This is ridiculous that we're even entertaining these ideas, but we go along with it, right? Because we're waiting for government to fix it for us, right? But we can actually start to do something about this ourselves. We start to look at the underlying issues that happen in our day-to-day life. So think about this from like a micro to macro kind of thing when we look at this tonight, right? So think about it like how is it happening in your life and how does it happen on more of a grander kind of national to international scale, right? When we see things like human trafficking, we know that that's a very global issue, right? The Sound of Freedom movie kind of illustrates that really, really well, right? We know drug trafficking. That's a global kind of thing, right? And I was thinking about this too when it comes to like MK Ultra and this mind control thing that people like to refer to a lot. Is that they realized a long time ago they didn't need to have LSD to get people to freak out, right? And in fact, as much as we know about this and the operations that were going on behind that, of course, if you've been with me, we covered this. But the also like, the methamphetamine and a lot of these other drugs that are out there, they're just thing. You don't think that the same kind of ideas went into the release of those drugs out into the system. This girl should business, right? She's lost her mind and she commits these heinous crimes under this on the influence of this. And believe me, it wasn't her first time doing it on methamphetamine. It wasn't her first time doing it, right? It wasn't her first time at all. Uh-oh, I'm getting a little static there. Um, right? But yeah, it wasn't her first rodeo with that stuff. In fact, it's probably something she's been doing for years and years and years. But she seemed to be actually in pretty good health for having being a participant in that. So maybe it was something new, right? But I mean, I can tell you, like so many people I know that have gone off the rails uh, on methamphetamine, and ice, and drugs like that, right? They're all the same, I guess. And they kind of lose themselves, right? So there we go. This drug trafficking, right, is become set up this person thinking they're just having a good time, right? But set up into this world completely different, right? It almost erases part of the care that they have for things, the care that they have for other people and themselves, especially the self. You lose the self-respect, you lose respect for everybody, and that kind of just a trickle down effect, man. It's just like as soon as that goes, everything else goes. So this woman had no problem hacking up her boyfriend and doing sick and disgusting things to his corpse, because she had lost that ability inside of her. And so I like to use the three examples of this, like in terms of uh, you know, making the connection, right? There's like there's like the Amber Heard, right? There's the Amber Heard, the Eliza Blue, and there's my ex. They all did the same thing. They all went to California at a young age and thinking they're going to be actresses and models and stuff. And a couple of them did. One of them didn't. Guess which one? The but they got messed up with that stuff, and then they came back different people. Like I don't know about the other two, but I can tell you for the third one, it was like, that she tends to point to that as where everything kind of went downhill for her. So, nothing you can do about that if you don't acknowledge it and try to do something. But that drug seems to erase part of people's personalities like really bad, like more than LSD ever could. Yeah, I know where you're coming from, Corey. But keep an open mind. The statism. Yeah, the problem with the word statism and the way that there is kind of set up is there's this idea that you can just not have it and everybody's going to snap into place. Obviously, if you have a corrupt system, you can't just put in an ideal system on top of that, right? It's not going to work because you already have corruption in the system. The money's in the hand. So all the people are going to kind of come around to this idealistic kind of pie in the sky. Um, uh, that stuff doesn't seem to go well as far as like I always say, get the corruption out of the system, and then we could talk about ideologies. We can talk about what's the best plan for the world, what works best, right? And I believe it is like a low government, like like really really minimal government. But I tend to agree with Ron Paul in this area that it should be constitutional because that's the agreement we have written now, right? And so we have to go through reforming that. We can't reform that in a corrupt system, right? A corrupt system is already corrupt. You're not going to get anything but corruption out of it. That's what we're trying to address here on this show is like looking at the system, how it corrupts everything around it, and what are the sources of that corruption, right? So if you want to have an idealistic anarchy society or something like that has everything figured out, you have to get through the problems that we already have first in order to do that. Because these guys will just shut you down. They'll shut you down in a second. They can shut you down like that. 1 second. Let's see what you guys say. I say the corruption will never be taken out without understanding it. Well, that's what I'm talking about, right? We're talking about understanding the corruption. And my words, as for the Constitution, just expose it. Just expose the Constitution in your recent video, right? I don't think there's any corruption. I mean, that's an idealistic kind of. It's a contract, right? So that's the ideal situation. And what happens is it gets subverted, right? It gets subverted over time by corrupt individuals who are, vying for power. These people in the global ownership class, as I describe it, right? That are able to sit back with their money and their ideas and their think tanks and all the time in the world to put out things like, this stuff over here, right? And in a sense, you have to ask yourself, is even the things that you talk about, is it somehow put out by them, right? It's important to understand that they have a system in place that perpetuates corruption, right? This is what we're talking about right here. So if you don't get rid of things like these, right? Does that come along with the plan, right? Does that come along with just getting rid of statism? No. I mean, why would that stop? Why would that stop them? The global ownership class, right? Yeah. Let's see, voluntarism is the alternative, which most people already believe. They have contradictions they're unaware of, therefore there is nothing to teach. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, voluntarism is a great thing. I do believe that people should be able to choose what they do, right? And choose what they're involved in. In fact, I think I even had a concept called basically you could decide where your taxes went, right? So if you wanted your taxes to go into this, you could say, well, this part goes here, this part goes there. And that way people wouldn't have to be put in their taxes to things like abortion and things like that if they don't agree with it, right? They could opt in. It was called an opt in. But again, when you have a group of people who almost the resources and have most of the systems under their control, how do you escape that, right? That's the part that I would ask you about. I don't really understand how the people who have gone all the way to the extreme of anarchism can believe that they could have this global influence, right? It has to be some kind of miracle at the end of it. I think you have to walk yourself towards that and then have a conversation about it. Because if you try to reform a government that's already corrupted, what are you going to get? You're going to get more corruption, man. It's just like you have to solve some of these problems. And that government isn't always a problem. And I think you probably would agree with that. As far as that fact that we have to take a lot of this responsibility on ourselves. And that's what we talk about here with the solution culture is like forming the education. I'm sorry if I'm coming in and out a little bit. I can see the that it's probably my service that they're having a little bit of issue today. I'm not on Wi-Fi, but hang in there. Um, it's a okay, yeah. Let's see. As far as side note, anarchy is an ideology. It's the reality. It is an ideology if you believe in it, and it's a form of government. But for which we might have a different set of definitions there. Freedom is reality? Would you love to have a Yeah, we'll totally have a conversation about it, man. Um, and I know where you're coming from. I know that I know all of the Passio stuff. I know all this stuff. I've been I've been I've listened to it for 15 years, so I know what it's about. But yeah, as far as that goes, right? So, how does that philosophy though deal with something like this, right? Like we're gonna talk a little bit about this narcissistic thing that's going on in society today that's corrupting people, like the show business girl, right? Like, where does it come from? Come from drugs, abuse, other things like that, right? How do we put a stop to that? See, we have to go back, and you have to realize this is a generational warfare. It's not just something that, in fact, even at your age, you're something not something you're really going to see in your lifetime. It's going to be a generational work. Like, you might get to the end of your life, and then if everything goes right, then you'll start to see some of the changes because it has to go through these this generational thing, right? Where the kids are raised a certain way, so they become that in society. We go back to this right here on our board. We say, abuse the young, break the future, right? So that's kind of what we're talking about today. And a lot of this right here is abuse, and it's abuse from day one, right? Whether it be the entertainment, whether it be the media, whether it be the lying politicians, right? The false left right paradigm, all this stuff that they want to get in your head when you're young, right? And tell you what you are and how to act and what to think and how to look, right? And what to believe in and all this stuff, right? This is all coming at you from day one. So it's really the most innocent among us that we have to look out for in this war. We have to come at it from a point of view that we're addressing it generationally, like our enemies are. Our enemies don't come in here and be like, we're going to go after all the adults, right? They got us. They've had us. No, they're going after the kids. That's why you see all this stuff happening to the kids. You know, well, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, and abolitionists too. I looked into your abolitionist thing. You should take a look at my latest repairing history was on was slavery racist, right? Um, that addresses some of that. But as far as abolitionists go, they didn't really care what happened to the people once they got rid of them. They were more like, yeah, I could see why you like them because they were just like, okay, let's stick it to the state this way. But it really would have caused a lot of issues had they gotten their way from the start, right? Then there needed to be a balance between that extremism and then the other extremism. You can say, well, okay, it's just abolishing slavery. That's a very general look at their philosophy. But if you dig into it, look at some of what Thomas Sowell had to say about it, and there's some answers in there. I don't think that's completely wrong, but I do think that they were a little over the top in terms of their approach, right? Had they gone into it from a little bit of a more of a humanistic approach, like what's going to happen to these people afterwards? Can we just do this? Can we do this, that? They're like, no, just cut it off and go, right? And to the point where even Lincoln wasn't really considered an abolitionist, right? Um, there was some disagreements about that philosophy, even though I think rooted in it was the right idea, right? The right idea was to get rid of slavery, but it took a long time. That's why that episode I did of repairing history was slavery racist. That's an important episode to look at and watch from beginning to end because a lot of those questions are answered right in there, and we look at a lot of it from a historical point of view. Um, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, volunteer is an alternative. Well, yeah, we already believe in that. We saw that. See, Yeah, we can that's probably up for discussion. There's a moral. It ties in the whole chart in every way. I can prove it to you. Yeah, I can I figure that you have a something for that. But the way that this to say, okay, we're gonna get rid of statism, everything's fine. Do you think that actually is a you think that actually if we just said, okay, look, statism's gone, does everything does all of this go away? Does this stop? Does this stop? Does this stop? How about that? Does that stop? It doesn't stop, right? It's not going to stop just because you take statism out of the picture. Yeah, our statism is corrupted, right? The statism is corrupted. Or is some kind of like thing to that. Can we all live in a utopian kind of voluntaristic society? I think with structure, yes, but I think that the lack of structure, that no state, no nothing, right? And maybe the word is just maybe just change the word state to something else, and that's how we get rid of statism. But they seem to like leave out a lot of the gritty details about life and and people and how they are. Like these people who grift off these things, man. You're gonna get rid of that. People are gonna vote with their dollars, right? I understand that, but also, see, there's this ability to control people through information. So how do we address that? You see, in the end, I think what you're looking for, Corey, is you're looking for this. You're looking for this right here, but you just haven't figured that out yet. Because see, if we start at the beginning by putting the trivium education into schools, by repairing history with Thomas Sowell's type history, like putting in the omitted facts, talking about things in a real way. If we reintroduce and get down to talking about the philosophy of liberty, which is what a lot of what I'm hearing from really what you're saying underneath all of this is that the real philosophy of liberty. Like if you listen to any of Ron Paul's, I don't know if you ever did, but have you listened to any of Ron Paul's speeches from when he ran for president? Like this full of information about the real philosophy of liberty, and of course, understanding how to combat the media and information in our system like with real media studies, right? Or understanding how media influences, like things like juxtaposition and sound biting and things like that. How to get through that, right? How to teach your kids that, and how to maintain your parental rights, because parental rights is something that we tend to you know we tend to not understand how important these are and how under attack they are all the time. And I don't know how an unstructured system can ensure some of these things, right? Or could make sure that these things are happening. So it's very complicated. And I don't think there's any one right answer to it. I think it's a conglomeration of good ideas that come together. And that could be part of that what solution culture is about. So yeah, no, I'm highly interested in having conversations with you. Conversations, not arguments, but about this. It kind of introducing kind of seeing where these ideas merge, right? Without really trying to do much in that and to see how they fit in, right? Because like natural law, I think natural law is very important and should be understood. And I think we look at it from like a universal law perspective over here. So we're looking at the nature of the universe, right? And what are these things that we deal with? And you see a lot of it crosses over with things that you believe already. Um, but how do we work that into our daily lives and understand consequences and benefits to our actions, to our energy, right? And that's what it's about. That's what that's about too. So I think that understanding universal and natural law helps us understand why things right and wrong occur, right? And what happens when you do cause harm, right? And how there is an energetic consequence to that, and then there's an energetic benefit to helping, right? To being part of something good, to being part of a good idea. So yeah, there's definitely a lot discussed there, but there's no one silver bullet, man. Or um, yeah, you can tie a lot of things to each one of these problems too, right? I can take the same approach and say a lot of this has to do with this, right? A lot of it has to do with that. So how does that happen? We take a step back. We understand that a lot of it could be manufactured, man. In fact, if they've gone as far as to study this, right? Study how to actually control a society through psychological warfare, right? Then all this is on the table. All you have to do is introduce the idea, and boom, it's out there. Uh, so they could do a lot of things, but this whole epidemic of um, cluster B and narcissism and things like that that's going on underlies a lot of it. Hey, look, you got to be a pretty gritty person to get out there and lie to people. You have to be a pretty far gone person to distort yourself and talk other people into distorting themselves, right? You have to be a pretty far gone person to promote authoritarianism. I think we can agree on that, Corey, for sure, right? Um, as above, so below. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Micro to macro. That's exactly what I opened up with, and it is true. On the grander level, that's what we're seeing. That's why I say keep this in mind. You see it on a bigger level. How is it happening in your life? How is that one broken person affected your life through destabilizing it, right? And how have they controlled your life through destabilizing it? You see where I'm going with this? It goes right down to the whole topic of this evening, which you're on top of. You see it. So, yeah, micro to macro, as above, so below, same thing. The For the most part, yeah, I'm sure we can get nuanced on that, but yeah, for the most part. So, not everything is, but like agitates absolutely do. Agitants. Okay, so we're on the same page here, right? But maybe it's just a difference in approach. Let's see. Hey, Voltamps, how you doing, man? See, can you give an example of the nature of the effort to subvert or influence young people's political or historical views? Sure. Yeah. One example is what's going on in public schools right now, right? Instead of learning real history, they're learning a version of history that they want people to know, right? They want people to live in, like CRT, this wokeness that's going on in schools, right? This is all being subverted education. You don't hear about, well, are they being taught things that are going to help them in life, and they're going to be taught things that are going to make them better people. In fact, if you take a look at our alternatives, right, for these types of education that they're getting right now, right, this stuff, be like this, be like this, be like this, all this stuff in here, right, this whole conglomerate around the education system, turning people into social justice warriors, right, um, and so on. The replacements for that speak, the solutions speak to to the problem, right? We don't teach kids logic. We don't teach them how to decipher fallacies, right? We have omitted history and not completed history. So we want to repair history by introducing the real facts back into the program, ugly as they may be. It's not a black and white thing. It's never been, right? That's establishment versus the rest of us. Like, I think Corey could agree with that as well. Like the philosophy of liberty. Like, how many people here actually understood the philosophy of liberty growing up? They were taught it. I bet you probably not many people under 40, right? Under 50 or 60, even under 60, man. Because I don't remember that stuff really being taught in school. And then the importance of being up to date with information. We give kids computers, but do we teach them how media influences them? Right? Do we teach them how the mind works? Like in this program, what we've done is we've gone all the way back to the beginning. This is how the whole thing started out in a series called from the Valley of the Shadows, right? And that's just what I called it, my first set of videos, right? We discussed how the human mind works. My very first episode, well, one of my very first, we're talking about the human mind OS, how images are the source of that OS, right? And how the control of their images and what you can associate with them form these archetypes. So that's how you could take someone like Donald Trump, who was, pretty revered in society by all people, and turn him into this racist by just juxtaposing the images of and the thoughts of images, like the words, right, next to his name over and over and over again until it started taking on the weakest among us, right? The ones that were just the most susceptible to the information, right? We talked about how the mind goes through acceptance, right? We talked about the bias decision, or like how you buy into new ideas, and then what comes on beyond that. So all these things we've covered in the beginning to talk about how we can be influenced by information based mind control, right? And so we started focusing on that. And we started filling this board out, and this isn't everything, but it's some of the major points, right? I'm sure we could add lots and lots of more stuff to it, but also how people fall out of this belief, right? Some people follow this belief and they fall into the second veil, where they're given a bunch of ideas, right, and a bunch of stories, but with no conclusions, no real solutions, right? Every solution will lead back to more of the same. So they're kind of trapped in this little spear here of believing that there's a boogeyman out there, and there's all these different things that they're being lied to because they've given up on what they were born into. So they're born into this first veil, right? We all were. We were all born innocent, love, and light, and here we are on the first day, right? It's just you, right, and your family. And as you scroll out, you start to learn more about the world. And what's the first thing you learn, right? It's the thing that most of us reject now, and that's the establishment narrative, like the schools, how to do things. That's the routine. Is this what life is about, right? These people are this, these people are that. You should be this way, you should be that way. All this information coming at us. And one day, people like us, we just say, enough of this. I'm not going to be lied to. I see too much fault in what's going on. I can't trust anything around me. So I'm going to start looking for more. And as we start looking for more, we find the second veil is conveniently waiting for us. And that's where we fall into a lot of these rabbit holes that we go through on this program and debunk, right? So some of the stuff we've been debunking lately, we do that. It's like this show goes between me kind of explaining this philosophy and talking about it, to having guests, to actually diving into some of these topics and debunking them, or just discussing them. So we just did Ancient Aliens, right? And how that was put on a History Channel, and so many people buy into this now, right? And how that led to the Disclosure Project, which is where we're going to go next in that kind of series. We're going to start talking about that. I was all excited about it, and then when I realized third phase of Moon was putting out all their stuff now, I was just like, this has to, for me, it becomes so obvious that this stuff's bullshit. Like I don't see how anybody buys into it, but people do, and eventually start to believe there's a Galactic Federation of Light out there that's going to come and save them, so they don't do anything. So in the same sense of, they believe that the aliens are going to come save them from statism, right? They're going to be the aliens are going to come reset everything and take us to the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension or whatever the fuck they're talking about now, right? And the Gaia is the real religion, right? The Earth, and that there's secret soldier programs out there, and they're transdimensional beings, right? So there's some people out there that believe they're transdimensional beings. That's the explanation for everything. But and I question that because if you just look back far enough, you can see that eventually you get into this realm of ideas and into universal nature, right? And behind that, you're going to find the answers are really just already out there. There doesn't have to be transdimensional beings doing it, because the ideas exist on a bigger level than we all realize. But right now, we're focusing in on this right here. Let me take a look at the chat real quick. I've been talking for a minute. Volts, what's up? Voluntarism would be a society where everybody is free to be part of one group or another. I think I think I have that right. I'm not understanding the live in fear part. That is something we want to avoid. Yeah, definitely. Well, the live in fear part is about like, okay, live in fear is to stay on defense. So the alternative narrative to the establishment narrative right now is all these things that I'm kind of pointing out right here, right? That they're doing all this stuff to us, and that they're part of these big groups, right? And that they have nefarious means, or they're being controlled by transdimensional beings from another. And people buy into these things as a source of truth because they've rejected the establishment narrative, rightly so, in most of the ways. Now, there's always a little bit of truth sprinkled in everywhere around here, right? So we're not trying to deny that. Yeah, we can sprinkle some truth in, but then we take it to one level or another. The same things that happen over here happen over here. It's just different topics, right? Over here, they're telling you it's all vast right-wing conspiracies and things of that nature, and it's all about these things. It's all because everybody's racist. It's all because everybody's this and that and sexist, and because they're all these things, right? So they feed you this narrative. They tell you over here it's because it's because they're transdimensional beings, or because they're blood-sucking vampires, or because they have this great plan for this new world order where they're going to reign over us in terror, and it's just the most horrifying thing in the world, right? They already have all this stuff. I mean, they don't need to do anything more than what they're doing. All they need to do is continue the cycle of corruption, right? They just continue this. That's what I'm trying to say. It's generational warfare. Why have these people stayed in power for so long? You can, Corey may say statism, right? It's statism. Well, okay. So it's statism today. Tomorrow it's globalism. Tomorrow it's something else. Call it what you want to. Getting rid of statism isn't get rid of these people and their money and their wealth and their power, right? It doesn't. We have to remove the enablement. I think this is where we can come to an agreement, is that we can remove the enablement, right? Through education, through raising our own generational warfare of truth, right? Through solution culture, which is where we are, because they don't see us coming, right? That's where we are. Let me scroll down here. Let me see what we're saying. Volunteers. Okay. Yeah. So the live in fear is this. They got us scared of these things that we can't do anything about, right? And so that way we're just always on defense. Like if you just go talk to any one of these guys that are I'm in the wrong place. Go talk to any one of these guys or any of these conspiracy grifters or anybody that you believe in is like on the mark with this stuff, right? And ask them what the solution is. Like you're never going to find them. Anybody that has a reason, well, then we got to get the people to do this. We got to get the people to do that. How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that when the people are divided? Right? That's what solution culture is about. It's about addressing the root cause issues. You see, you can have all this stuff going on, right? And say, I can see this, I can see that, I can see that, I can see that. But then these people thought they were going to go take over the freaking the government with sticks and stuff. I mean, what were they? No, these people think that if we just prove this, everything's going to be all right. No, there's no solution. Even these people don't have solutions. I'm going to argue with somebody about something. I'm going to show up to a protest and become optics for somebody, right? I'm going to go around telling great stories about the space people, right? What are you going to do about the New World Order, right? You're going to vote them out? I mean, what are you gonna do about the Illuminati? You gonna vote them out? I mean, it's like don't have any solutions. They'll just tell you the scary shit that's going on, and they'll be like, oh, we gotta well, what are we gonna do? What are you trying to say? Like, what's the plan here, Pan? Now that I'm past awareness, right? Now that I'm past awareness, let's go back over here real quick. Now that I'm past awareness and I've done the research, what do you want me to consider? What decision can I make? How can I provide a solution? How can I implement it? And how can I resolve the issue? Right? That's what we're talking about. That's where the live in fear, stay on defense comes from, because you cannot get past this part right here, right? To get to these parts when you're living in fear. Fear is the mind killer. That's what they want. Look, do you think that they went through all the trouble to think up all this other shit and they haven't contended for the people who get out of the bucket? You get out of the one bucket and you fall into a bigger bucket, right? And there's other people in there just trying to keep you down there, saying, "Oh yeah, they're all in on it. Oh, they're all in on it." No, there's still good people out there. There has to be. There's a balance, right? There's a balance in the universe. There's duality, right? Balance, imbalance, duality, benefit, consequences, life, death, eternal now, right? These are some of the rules that we understand about the 3D universe, right? And more to be added, by the way. So I've kept that light because I want to get into natural law. I do. And that's what I want to talk to people like Corey and others that have a good understanding of it, and Mark Passio and other people. I've had Jan Irvin on the show talk about the trivium thing, because if you go back, you remember him. He's also, let me stop rambling for a second. This show, I tend to get really into the rambling part, and because there's so much to explain. And I understand that this concept is new to a lot of people, and I get excited and I want to talk to them about it. So let me talk to the crowd here real quick. I got to take yes. What's the establishment narrative? The establishment narrative is the one you're born into. That there's like, there's Republicans and there's Democrats, and that this is the way the world is, right? So they're pushing the establishment narrative on television, on CNN, on everything that's coming from the powers that be, right? The status, right? Wherever you want to call them, the powers that be, right? That's the establishment narrative. That's the one that is in charge, and you're hearing about from day one, right? So, and just because this is where it exists in the first veil, you're born into the establishment narrative. You know about it. You know about this stuff. It's their education, right? It's their points of view. It's their ways to be. It's their social engineering. It's all the things that we see. And then if you stay there, you're probably believing right now that, everything's a vast right-wing conspiracy and that Donald Trump's a racist and all other stuff, right? And even these people over here will agree with them on a lot of things too. Believe it or not, there's people over here that should be firmly against anything that they try to push, understanding that what they're always trying to do is further their own agenda. And see that any kind of opposition to that is worth supporting, right? Any kind of opposition, anything that throws a wrench in the gears of this system is worth supporting, And instead they're more like, okay, just turn your back on everything. Don't vote, don't do anything, don't participate. And that's what I'm going to be trying to talk about with 2024, the new show, is that you got to have like a pillar of attack, right? You have to understand that government integrity is important, whether you like statism or not. Whether your end goal is to get rid of statism altogether or not. At this point in history, where we are today, in order to solve this problem, we have to get back to government integrity. So I would say even people that are full, they say statism and voting, all that shit, fucking bullshit, right? Even those people need to get on board with the anti-establishment coalition, in a sense that we have to get some kind of reign on this power, and turning your backs and just taking your money away and doing all that stuff. It would take everybody doing it one time. So if you got a plan for that, let me know. Let's talk. But if you don't have a plan for that, we have to deal about it doing it the step by step, removing the enablement way. right? I'm all up. I'm up-minded. I'm willing to listen to anything. But it's not about a do or die thing. Okay, then if you don't do this, then you're that. No, I think there's room for everybody in the anti-establishment coalition because it is the establishment versus the rest of us, right? There's room for everybody to contribute the way they can contribute, whether it's just creating new culture and keeping the real culture alive, um, you know, creating alternatives to their products, like we're talking about with the AI. Like, don't just let them have it. Don't just turn your back on it because you don't like it or don't understand it. Get out there and figure it out and make your own shit. Make it so that it's open source and everybody can access it. So we all have the benefits of life extension. So we all have the benefits of advanced protection and advanced of prosperity. Like the world of the future, the voluntary world of the future. How is that going to look? How does it run? Right? What about education? Like how will that affect education and the generations that are upcoming? Does it deal with wokeness? Does it deal with the lies that are being told to kids, the destruction, the abuse that's being laid on them by people? Does it deal with that? Like, if this, like, tell me about it. Like, lay out the plan. Like, we all get the idea, and I think that anybody that puts their mind to it can go and figure out how to assign blame for this or that back to the government or back to whoever else, right? But it doesn't get us anywhere. Where does it get us? How does it get us down the road? How does it make this stuff go away? Because it hasn't always been like this. That's the one thing I want to point out. This system I'm showing you, right? These elements, the subversive elements and the veils of perception, right? This hasn't always been this way. And this isn't the answer to everything, by the way. It's just a way to understand it, a way to see it from the point of view of, yeah, you remember when you were born into the world? You remember when you first learned about the news being the where everybody got their information from, and the politics being the helpful, friendly people that were taking care of us, right? And the school system, the trusted information. You got to get your education so you can learn and be part of the world. You remember all that stuff? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about, right? Well, this is the modern version of that. Like, we didn't have this and that. We certainly had that when I was growing up, but we didn't have so much of this, right? That wasn't out there. That was coming about. Like, the whole idea of, it's your fault that all this happened because of your skin color bullshit. That's come about in that day and time, right? But for the most part, we were just my generation's just more about like that, more about that, the tail end of this. It's about, buck authority, party hard, and don't worry about it. Money's evil, all that shit. So it's all the things that'll keep you like nice and broken and full of problems the rest of your life if you actually buy into it and don't understand how to navigate in this world. And that's what we're talking about. So this destabilization that happens, right? It comes from media. It comes from influence, right? It comes from entertainment. It comes from the culture itself, right? Subvert the young, change the culture, and it happens every day. That's why it's so important that if you want a voluntary future, if you want a stateless future, right, that you better get on board with this right now, because in order to get there, you're not just gonna snap your fingers and have everybody kind of join in. I don't care how long you talk for or how many people you line up to back up what you're saying, right? It's more vast than this, man. We are a grain of sand on a very, very large beach as individuals, right? It's going to take a lot longer than you think. The fastest way to get there is the fastest way they got there. They're subverting the young. They're trying to change their mindset. They're taking away the education. They take away the history. They take away the philosophy, right? And all they give them is what they want them to know and how they want them to be. That's where that's where our first stand should be, and it has to be. That starts the generational healing of this problem. And we could find a way to move away from things that, that it can be considered status, right? Or whatever. If that's what you think is a good solution, you'll have a lot better time introducing that idea in a less corrupt system, or if not a corruption-free system. Let's see what we got here. Hold on, man. Maybe and likely I am late to the game, but what's the third veil? The third veil is the cycle of abuse. So the cycle of abuse is the third veil. The reason why it's the third veil is because most people just accept it here in the first and second veil. They don't see how much damage this does. The social engineering, the institutional psychology that goes on. Little things like not caring for life and turning it into a profit. I just add things in here. They're not all like 100%. You can't see it if you're over here. You can see it. You just don't understand that it powers everything that's going on here. That's really what I want to get into here in a second as well. I'm gonna play really focus down on the individual issues that we kind of face, and the macro issues will kind of like produce themselves, right? So if you can see like the grander things we talk about, in terms of abuse goes, right, where the abuse becomes institutionalized, right? Like the troubled teen industry. We talked to the survivors of Elon, right? And Mark Babbitt's, and he's going to be coming back on the show. I talked to him today. Actually, he's doing quite well, and we had a great conversation as always. And he'll be coming back on the show soon. And he may, I think he's probably going to be coming on the 2024 show with me because he's big into the election stuff too. But of course, we're always going to talk about the Elon survivors and the troubled teen industry and what that's been doing to people. Whoa, I almost turned that sideways. um, and of course, the prison industrial complex, you know, how the entertainment industry basically and the manufactured music industry basically has, you know, flooded these two institutions here. People make a lot of money on these on the suffering of other people, right? And in a lot of cases, the institutionalizing of these people makes them even worse, right? And we got inlets to that, you know, the government, social services, people that are involved in government and the criminal justice system, corruption, all the way down the line. This whole cycle of abuse is full of corruption, right? And it's powered by people that are on that trauma-based mind control level, right? So they are doing things. They have the wherewithal to commit heinous atrocities and destabilize life for all these other people, right? And maybe they grift into like the you know, how to abuse them financially, like these guru grifters. I really want to do a special on them too coming up, after we get through this UFO kind of tangent thing we're going to go on here real quick. We're going to hit all these things and then we're going to top it off with some you know, trying to figure out for in real reality what these things are, and kind of go back. But I want to go down the slippery slope of the believing in aliens are all around us, or that they're the answer, or that they have the technology to save us. All these dead ends that people fall into. Um, you know, they're there for us just to fall into when we stop believing that government can solve our problems, right? So they want to trap the people that get free of this idea, right back into something else. So that's what the second veil is about. It's the alternative narrative, right? And that narrative is based around this fear that you can't, you know, this fear that you can't touch, you can't do anything about. So you're constantly waiting for something to happen. You're constantly waiting for that first bullet to fly or whatever it is to do something, waiting for the alien to land, waiting for the big the big culling to come about, you know, waiting for, you know, the big exposure of something so that you can make a move, right? Everybody here is standing pat. They ain't doing anything, right? And some of them are not even participating. So they're going ahead and go ahead, establishment, win. I won't vote. I won't be a part of trying to oppose you. So you go ahead and win. I'm just gonna sit back and wait for everybody to believe what I believe. Ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. Um, sorry, but it could work in a look. I'll tell you what. I would make a deal with anybody who wants to help reform the world and maybe introduce a new way of living. Join me now. Join me now to go against the corruption and in the ways that we need to remove the enablement, which means you're going to have to participate a little bit. You can't just check out on us, man, because we need the numbers. We need the unity. And when everything is, we get things to a point where it's reasonable to work out new ideas, then we can work them out. But think about this: no one's going to listen to you until that point, anyways. The establishment will step on you every single bit of the way, and if all the opposition is out of their way, they'll come for the fringe opposition. Yeah, what protects the fringe opposition now really is just the forward opposition that's out there. You know, they'll eventually get around to you, you know, but you won't be able to have that society you're looking for. And it may be the best idea out there. You may have great ideas, and we need to get people to listen to your ideas. How can they listen to your ideas in a corrupt system when you got all this noise going on over here? All this noise. Here, go away. All this noise, right? You're born into this noise, right? Then if you're lucky, you escape this noise and you're just into more noise. So many people are living in these first two veils, right? And then bad things happen and these atrocities happen and they're wondering why do they keep going on? Who are the people that are vacant enough to continue this cycle of abuse, right? They gotta come from somewhere, don't they? They're not all these people. some of it, they're made from early on. So the cycle of abuse works like this: you come into this world, you fall into one of these things, you start becoming abused little by little, subverted little by little, right? To the point where your generation is willing to do things like this, right? Do things like saying, "Oh, there's the," and ignore the facts of what's going on in schools, ignore the facts of, the scientific evidence, like someone like not Scott Nugent's putting out about what transitioning does to people, right? And ignore that. Just listen to all the sales pitch, listen to the media, listen to what they want you to believe, right? The abuse starts there, right? And then after you're done with this, if you haven't fallen into this or this along the way, right? If you haven't been conned into being part of some kind of like illusion, of where you put yourself into a position of being imprisoned, right? Having a record in the system, to being watched, to being put into the system, right? Perhaps even being pushed down further into more abusive or suicidal or homicidal thoughts, right? Both of these places are going to do that for you, right? And you just got to fall into that system. You got to break one of their laws, right? They get caught with some of the stuff that they bring in, right? And boom. And then all the little things, right? All the people, all the loud people that are out there trying to put more laws on people and put more government on people. See, this is where people like Corey and I can really agree, is that yeah, I can look at this and say this is all because of the government, right? And it is. It's a corrupt government, though. I think that's maybe where we part, is that hey, how's it going, Shiz? I'm rambling tonight. But it's what this show is about. This is about the tonight's show is about, and then we're gonna get back on track. And by the way, I do want to talk to you and Caitlin about maybe if you guys want to do the UFO narrative with me, since we had so much fun doing it. If you guys want to do Disclosure with me and Galactic Federation of Light and all these things, we can make a series out of it. I was thinking like I'd like to have you guys back for these type of things, because there's some things that we could have some fun with, but it's also informative, and like you like to talk about cults and things like that, and this is no doubt it's a free range cult of idea. But let me catch up here. I tend to look at my board and not see the chat, so give me a second to catch up on the chat real quick when I'm talking, because I gotta connect ideas as I'm talking, so it takes a little bit of work to kind of like say, well, here this is, here that is, and this is why this is. I really want to try to get it across. It's not an easy thing to grasp all at one time, and I do want to get into the cycle of abuse, and I do want to show some of the things that I have saved for us to take a look at. But let me answer some emails real quick. So we live in a see, would it be help me to be able to process more? Listening to you explain it helps. Oh, thanks. Thank you. Um, okay, so we live in a society where they want us to live in fear by continuing this form of generational warfare. Yes. And this war is carried out by the weaponization of media. Yes, media is a big part of it because it's just information, right? So but there's also a lot of action involved here too. There's a lot of physical action involved here. These things right here, these are the physical actions that are happening to continue the cycle of abuse, right? And I threw some. This is not a perfect. My chart is not perfect, right? I'm not saying this is the final version of anything. Like but I put them out here for reasons. Like I kind of like put these tied together for a reason, because they kind of step into each other, right? You start by stripping identity down, and then you can confuse a person about who they are, tell them they can be anything. You got a broken person there for the rest of their life, man. You got a broken person who's not fully participating, not living up to their then they're going to buy into whatever at that point, right? So now they have to join the club, right? Now they have to join the club, and they have to do what the club tells them to do, right? They have to do what the club tells them to do. So this all is a form of abuse that's thrown at kids. That's what I'm saying. It's all about generational warfare with these guys. With these guys, the status, these dudes right here, these guys, the status, right? It's all about, that's how they do it. So if you're not hip to the fact that they're it's always been generational warfare with them, that's how they do it. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if you went into some of these families' libraries, like their big mansions, they got big libraries handed down for hundreds of years, all this literature. You find a book that would explain exactly how to do all this. Like I would not be surprised. And it didn't have to be a manifesto. It didn't have to be the Illuminati with a bunch of blood and shit on it. It could just be a family heirloom. This is how our family maintains power throughout. This is a secret to our generational wealth, right? And you'd be surprised how many of people, how many kids that are part of this right here, part of this end up right here. Ask Paris Hilton. She's been there. I've talked to these people. I've talked to people that are at the top of this, raising the awareness about the troubled teen industry. And Mark Babbis will tell you, the other people that are for part of other schools will tell you that they had wealthy kids there too. Their parents sent them there to be traumatized too. You know, and that just put them back out there, a more menacing opponent and more ready to do the dirty work, right? They don't have a care because they follow this thing called elitism, right? And elitism, um, Corey, I would think that maybe we could come to an agreement that elitism is at the core of statism. How about that? We could probably do that, right? Because elitism to me is like the blind virus that is really chewing all this stuff and spitting it out, right? It's the belief that these people are better than everybody else. So they're not racist, they're not sexist. They just believe that their class is better than everybody else because they've had the generational wealth. They've been raised to think that way. They have this breakaway kind of culture, right? And that's pretty much like, so they don't mind seeing their own fall into this decrepit states, right? They don't mind seeing their care cremated, to borrow a phrase from the Bohemians, right? They don't mind because that's part of their culture already. So, and in a lot of senses, the ones that end up here are kind of not getting with their program almost. So they get to go get beat up on and abused and put through the system. Of course, they're going to bail them out. They got the money to bail them out. They got the justice systems under the thumb. So yeah, you can point to that and say that's statism, right? Let me read some more. Back. Okay. Yes, that was yes. Do you think the Supreme Court is part of the establishment and the power elite guiding this establishment of narrative? The Supreme Court. Well, the Supreme Court is supposed to be there um, to interpret the law, right? To make sure that laws are constitutional. And I would say that it's more like it's not the system itself. Of course, they're trying to corrupt it, right? If it's not already kind of corrupted as it is. Uh, but they would like to corrupt it even further by adding more Supreme Court justices if they can. By like the latest one that went in there, that was so manufactured. That was so manufactured, it was infuriating. Like literally, it was that person was picked to become a Supreme Court justice a long time ago. The people that they put in office around Biden was there to make sure that they got into office. Like I can go into a whole thing about that. What's her name? KJ something, right? Kajanji, right? I can go into a whole episode about that. That was really infuriating because it was so freaking transparent what they were doing. And that Jen Psaki, right? Or her name is. She literally used to work with that Supreme Court justice at the same freaking lobbyist group, right? The guy that was there to give the recommendations to Biden worked with them, all three of them, right? So they were all part of the same group. I can't think of the group's name off the top of my head right now, but yeah, that was so contrived and so planned. Yeah, they literally had to tell that one guy to retire. You're going to retire, so we can get her in there because they wanted to get that girl in there for a reason. And I think we'll give her some time to screw up good and whatnot. We'll go back and tell the whole story. But is it part of it? Well, corruption is just a festering thing, right? Are they part of the establishment narrative? They're part of the system of government we have. However, the corruption inside of it, right? When they get corrupt people in there to not uphold the Constitution and the values of the Bill of Rights and so on, but to subvert them, right? To misinterpret them. Like we've had several laws that have been misinterpreted, or several things that the Supreme Court's ruled on that's caused a lot of mayhem over the course of many decades, right? And then they come back around and you get like a less corrupt group in there and they start breaking that down a little bit. And they start like removing some of those things, right? They start saying, well, this should never been. But you get a corrupt group in there, sure, they'll be part of it. But I would say that as far as your question goes, let's see, where are you at? Did I lose it? He said, yeah, open source. Yeah, definitely, man. You should check out my Tech Reality Tuesdays. We talk about AI every week. And we're big on keeping it open source. We're big on it, like, because Space Power Monkey is a 10-year, 10+ year professional AI professional. So you can always ask him any questions about that. He's got the right answers. So it's a part of the establishment narrative. I would say that the narrative itself, no, the establishment narrative is this is the way the world is, right? These are the bad guys. These are the good guys. This is right. This is wrong, and they're telling you this, right? So it's the powers that be forming the narrative of their world, right? So like you go outside of their world, it looks very different, right? You're in that world. Like you talk to somebody that is a diehard, just leftist, like not even leftist, like just votes Democrat all the time, turns on CNN, believes it's the truth, turns it off, doesn't listen to anybody else. And then when they try to argue, they get frustrated or they try to discuss things, they only can tell you what they've been told. And then that's the narrative, right? That's the narrative. Orange man bad narrative, right? The what It's all the white man's fault narratives, like whatever narratives they're putting out for that generation, right? Is what the establishment narrative is. It's the one you're born into. It's the one on TV. It's the one that they want you to believe. It's the one in the entertainment. It's the one in their stuff. It's literally their stuff. When you back up and look at it, it's all the elite. It's all the elite stuff. It's not coming from, and the people that are creating it around their shell of the narrative, right? You go over here, the narrative changes, doesn't it? Get an alternative narrative, right? So we're working on really breaking down this entire system right here into just truth, right? Into just truth. And when you don't have an agenda that you need to manipulate people, you need to subvert people, right? Into these veils drop. They're not there anymore. Suddenly we're having real conversations. So this is a little idealistic, right? It seems like it in this day and age, it's very idealistic to believe that this could actually be possible. Well, what would happen if we didn't have this cycle of subversion going on, where the earliest generations are demoralized with these ideas and this narrative, right? And that we're destabilized by division, right? And that our consent's being manufactured, that our opposition is being manufactured by this elite, these elitists, right? And people say, well, yeah, you're talking about this and that or this, right? No, because it's they could put all these stories out there about themselves to make them seem ooh, whoa, ooh, bad. But really, there's just that one group, that one class. We're so much more. We are so much more than they are, but they can't let us ever figure that out, because if so, then we don't need them anymore, and they realize that. AI may be a way to do that. Maybe it may be something in there that actually takes so much of their ability to do these things out of the way that they can't function anymore. I don't know. We have to look for solutions, right? We have to look for opportunities as they arise. Let me get back to this because I'll ramble on. Um, let's see. Yes. Okay, did that one. Yes. Let's see, Corey. You have a great diagram, my friend, and thanks for being open-minded concerning problems. Yeah. However, have you ever read or watched the works of Lark Rose? Nope. I haven't, but I'll check it out. Send me some links. Also, I can give a very descriptive action concerning abolitionism, voluntarism, dieism, nonviolent resistant, also using history. Yeah, definitely. Hey, I know I've looked into your work, man. You have a good heart, and think your mind, you're heading in the right direction about things. And consider some of the things I'm saying too as like counterpoints or just other ways of looking at it, to help evolve that. I do have some other advice for you, but hold on a second. See, I give an easy answer to all your questions. No problem, my friend. Okay. Don't forget about food forests and permaculture. All right. See, yep. TensorFlow and OpenAI are open source. Yeah, we can do better than that, Dave. I've been looking at some stuff recently. And if something goes off, it's about to go off, I'll have all the resources I need to really ramp up this game. Let's see. Jim Gale of Food Forest Abundance is literally creating schools. David Rodriguez also has created alternatives. Okay, so in this sense, right? Okay, unschooling. I've read the unschooling stuff. In this sense, right? Then these people will be working on this part. This is what I'm saying. Like this part right here, right? They're working on that, and you said unschooling. Well, that's one way to look at it. But there's still some things that we have to fix. In terms of that, is that there's a lot of division. Like this weekend on Saturday night, I will have Gary Lamb on my show. It's going to be a Repairing History special winning Saturday night. It's a mouthful. But what we're gonna discuss is role model leadership in the Black community and how important that is to healing division, along with the Thomas Sowell education, along with a new way of looking at each other, a new way of working with each other. Like and the stuff that Gary and his wife is doing is not only beneficial to the Black community who needs to hear this and needs to see people like them and look up to people like them, right? But it's also beneficial to everybody. Like some of his advice transcends any kind of race or community that's out there. But especially for the Black community to repair a lot of the damage that's been done. If you follow my series, Repairing History, I've walked into this. I walked into it from day one, right? So all 5 of those episodes are a book, right? A giant book about exactly this and why this is important and why this approach is, I think, the best approach right now to heal division is that we have to start generationally by repairing the history, making sure that Black and white children are growing up with the real truth about history and the real truth about slavery and the real truth about Jim Crow and the real truth about society. And the real villains pointed out, it's never been Black versus white. It's been the elite, the establishment versus the rest of us. It always has been. So maybe in a sense that's what me and Corey are talking about the same thing. He just calls it statism. I don't know. But in a sense that, I think we see it the same way. But yeah, it's always been that, we can dig into those topics too. I'll get way off base if I start going down that road. But that's what that show's about. That show's about talking about that. So all those episodes, they're working together, right? So the big pinnacle of this is like when we start actually going to the people who are trying to help the Black community, they're doing the right things, they're showing up and being like, you be a man, be respectful to yourself, be true to your family, work hard, don't ever think yourself as a victim, don't ever think of yourself in this negative way, right? And don't ever look over and try to put the blame on somebody else because your shit ain't going right? That's all on you. And like Gary's example of someone who goes out there and does things, right? He doesn't sit there and try to blame the world for his problems or anything like that. He's out there being real about it. And that's why we're gonna have such a good time Saturday night talking, right? There's many other Black leaders that are out there like that, right? They're not the BLMs, they're not the Al Sharptons, they're not the race baiters and the antagonists that are out there. Those should not be role models. Those should be the people that they say that's what you don't want to be like, because those people ain't happy. They're not getting anything done, and all they're doing is spelling bad stuff for the future of this community. And that's what people like Gary and others are doing. So that's why it's gonna be very important. But yeah, I would say that in this right here, you're falling into the anti-establishment coalition already, right? And so wherever we can participate together and come together, we can actually oppose this. See, by doing things like what you're talking about, we're removing the enablement from their system, right? So we're kind of talking about the same thing a little bit. Let's see. The Art of Liberty has created several new campaigns, many new projects for freedom, all very action oriented and statism focused, which is beautiful. Cool. Let's see. We discussed how we could change the prison system using food forests and a recent roundtable of growing foods and doing wonders. Okay. Got to get those passed, man. You got to get those through, right? So let's see. So much distraction from the freedom movements for sure. They all ignore or never know, talk about the state is involved. Well, yeah, I feel like freedom movements is hang on one second. All right, sorry about that. See, so well, yeah. What is the freedom movements, right? In that sense, right? I think say liberty faction, freedom movement kind of gets a little muddied these days, especially when that can be roped in with a lot of other things that aren't really freedom movements. Kind of like the truth movement, right? It's like there's people out there claiming they're part of the truth movement and they're part of this and that. They're the ones uh, spreading most of this different, mostly these people right here that would tell you that they're part of the freedom, part of the truth movement. My group like fought against these guys for decades, so um, yeah. So the labels and such. That's why I like anti-establishment. It clearly states where you're at, and these movements basically are just movements, right? Do they get anything? Where do you fall in? Are you the freedom movement, the truth movement, or the liberty movement? Which one are you in? Like, no, we all need to be under the same umbrella. That's the unity part. That's the unity part we're talking about in social culture. Um, and they barely ever mention what. Hold on, let's say there's more to this. Yeah, state is about no. Actually, again, I know that you're a little bit younger, but if you go listen to Ron Paul, he's talking all about this stuff. A decade ago. Now we got to get back talking about that. That's why we're going to be showing some Ron Paul stuff when he talks about some of his really great speeches. And from time to time, we'll take a night and just kind of watch some of those because his ideas of liberty really reawoken liberty in this country, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. But we'll readdress those, and I'll show you what I'm talking about when we do that. Um, and not that I think that he was, he's the God all be all end all solution to anything. I don't think anybody is. I think it takes an emergence of positive, good ideas to coming together to actually provide the real solution. And the real solution is just really going to be a tipping point, right? A point where there's more of this than that, because there's always going to be a balance. There's always going to be the people out there that are broken that want to break other people. There's always going to be people out there that are corrupt and want to corrupt more and want everything. They're just this. It's the psychology, man. And so, can we minimize that? How do we stop that? See, that's the root cause analysis I'm talking about. Um, the root cause analysis in that is that we look at the cycle of abuse, right, and how it enables a cycle of control, and we say, okay, how can we go after each one of these things? What are the things that enable these things to happen, right? And then we start talking about the solution being to remove the enablement so that these things can't happen. A lot of it has to do with corruption, right? So we can't ignore the government. Like, we can't ignore the fact everybody just turns off the government, doesn't vote for one day. That sounds so great, doesn't it? Until the guns come in, until they come rolling down the street, right? Until the resources are cut off. You can't. It's almost suicidal. Like, well, the people should go live in the mountains, and whoever's left and blah blah. No, no. I mean, it sounds good, right? It sounds good, but I want to remind you what the day and age we live in is, right? If you're all checking out, right, and no one's in on the technologies, right? No one's making sure that technologies are under control. What do you think they would do with that if we just left it all in their hands, right? What do you think they would do with it if they had nothing but resistance? So you have to remove those, even if it's dollar by dollar, resource by resource. You remove the enablement, and then when they can't do anything, then you can go in hard. But you can't really move that quickly with these guys because they'll just shut you down. They got the media, they got half the country, half the world on their side. What are you going to do with that? We're trying to do this non-violently. Like, I'm sure you'd agree with that. To do it without the loss of life and destruction of the world. So there's all that too. So they barely ever mention the average individual, what the average can do with their own lives. Super important. We will come to show that our system works better and we don't need to convince anyone. Yeah, exactly. They want people to not believe that they're empowered, like, individually, right? They want people to believe that it's always this bigger force that needs to be going on. But that's the part of solution culture I'm telling people, that you can make a difference. This one by one, getting these into your schools, right? Making a point to have that part of the education, maintaining your parental rights, joining up with Parents United and groups like that, who are just in it for the cause, right? That are in it to make sure that the protection of children. We'll talk more about this on Saturday too. I want to bring this up with Gary, but yeah, this group that I'm it's just a floating idea out there. They call Parents United. It's like when the parents unite of this world, it's the strongest lobby in the world. There's nothing bigger and badder than the parents united. If every parent united under the cause of just child protection, we could get anything done. But how do you do that when you have a bunch of I call them faux parents, right? Bunch of just children owners that are into this shit. They're telling their kids this shit's true, right? To be this way, to look this way, right? To join these groups, to believe that every male is after out to get them, and every white male is out to get them. How do you? There's so many people, so many faux parents, bad parents that are out there that when we do join up, when parents are united for the right thing, the bad parents will be easy to spot. They'll be in the super duper minority of that right there. So, but this cycle of abuse and cycle of control maintains their power. And this is what I'm trying to tell you, is that when we allow this to continue, right, and we allow plagues to go on without really paying attention to them, right, what it does to people. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you. I want to talk about this particular issue right here. And I know some people like roll their eyes at it and or they can't handle it or whatever, but we're going to address it. And I've talked about this a lot. I mean, obviously, but the reason I want to talk about it because it's the ground level abuse. It's the ground level abuse that's going on these days, and we got to get a handle on it. And here's what I'm going to go into this right now. So I'm going to kind of depart from the board here and the discussion we've just been having. I'm kind of going to head into this, right? And hey, good discussion, guys. And thank you for contributing, Corey and Volts. If you're still here, thank you guys both for contributing. Hey, Lady Autumn Sky. Oh, thank you for being here and listening and catching up. Always a pleasure to have you with us. Sorry if I haven't been as interactive. Lots of big topics to talk about. I like the discussion, and I think that more of this will be had for sure. But I definitely want to kind of drill down on some of the individual parts of this, right? This narcissism epidemic, man. We're people are being destroyed and other people are enabling it without even realizing it. So we talk about removing enablement, right? Removing enablement from people who participate in this type of abuse. But in order to understand that, we have to take a look back. Now, my first series was called Epidemic on Display, right? And I can see I already lost one. So I know, but see, that's the problem is when people do not take time, they think they know everything, and they do not take time to actually listen and take in new ideas. They're not helping anything. They're probably enabling a lot of it. So, or not a lot of it. They're enabling someone who does it, right? Because they won't sit down and listen to it. I just can't take it. Take it for a minute. Try to understand what's going on, because if you're enabling a narcissist right now, you're causing trauma to someone else, and whether you realize it or not, you may want to rethink that relationship or rethink it, but you can't really rethink it if you don't understand what it is. So I want to talk about it real quick, but I do want to bring in this guy Andrew, right? Andrew has a channel named Narc Daily, right? Narc is short for narcissist, right? So he's a survivor, and no one will be able to tell you this more than a survivor. Now, there are some chumps out there who would like you to believe that it takes a narcissist to know a narcissist. Well, and that's all there is to it, right? So anybody talking about it has to be one, right? That's called low IQ right there, and it's called zero understanding of the concept. The truth is that yeah, it does take a narcissist to know a narcissist, but a survivor, that's what a narcissist will tell you, right? They'll tell you that because they don't want to be what they are, and they don't want to be called out for what they are. But a survivor will tell you this: it takes knowing a narcissist to know a narcissist. Knowing a narcissist to know you have to experience it, because as Andrew's going to explain to us here real quick, you don't understand it until you've been through it. So that's why, like, when people tune it out and say, "Oh, I can't," this and that, they're subconsciously know that they are one, or they subconsciously don't realize they don't realize that by not knowing it, they could very well be enabling it, right? There's part of it, there's some kind of resistance there to knowing the information. And it doesn't take long just to listen to someone say, hey, here's what I've learned about it through having to unfortunately go through it to understand how it works. And the reason why I bring it up, right, and I bring this particular topic up is because you'll start to see how this mechanism works when you hear that how Andrew explains it, right? The mechanism itself is the key to understanding how the cycle of abuse works. That's why I think it's important to bring it up and talk about it, because it shows you step by step exactly how they go about kind of destroying you individually, and then you see it on a grander level. You see it on a societal level, how like these people operating on maybe not the individual level, but the more group level, right? How they go about doing it. This entire mechanism, this methodology is built into almost everything that's abusive, man. So that's why I really wanted to bring it up. And I know that, like I said, I know a couple people aren't going to listen to it, but if you're with me, man, really take a listen to this. Let's see. All right. So I think the way that I did it was this. So we're going to do it like this. I'm going to do it with this. There's 1, 2, and possibly a third, but we'll see. Andrew, again, I'm giving all the credit to him. He's an amazing dude who does do counseling. He's a survivor, and he has been does have a channel called Nurse Daily, 145,000 subscribers. All right, this video itself has already gotten 13,000 views and it was put out 4 days ago. So I'm subscribed to him, so I always get his stuff. And let's present this. And here we go. The first video, it should be 3, and it's going to walk you through kind of the rig game, right? I call it the rig game. I have a series called Epidemic on Display. It wasn't the greatest series in the world. It was more like an artistic way of describing these things through the eyes of the Depp Heard trial, but it got this channel started. And that series is open-ended, so you never know. It may come back in a different form one day. But I do want you to get to know Andrew here real quick. And if you like what he's saying, give him a sub. And if you're having issues, he's a good guy to turn to. But he does stress the importance of what's going on here. So let's take a listen to Andrew real quick and listen to the methodology. I want you to, again, micro, macro, hat on, as above, so below, whatever you want to call it. But listen to the individual experience and then kind of expand upon it. Say, okay, how does this work inside of a family? How does this work inside of a community? How does this work inside of a state or in a country? And how does this work globally? Like, think about these in that capacity, and you'll learn a lot from them.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. My name is Andrew, coming to you from the beautiful Carolinas. Today's topic is going to be, they wanted to turn you into them. Think about that for a minute. Everyone, if you like the content, please subscribe. So I'll jump right into it. The narcissist, they wanted to turn you into them. And you may think that that's not true. I will give you many illustrations of it being absolutely true. I'll jump into that right now. The body of the relationship with the narcissist was unlike any relationship you've ever been a part of, because you experienced poor behavior by the narcissist. You tolerated poor behavior from the narcissist. You found yourself in precarious situations that you never thought you would be in. You found yourself putting out fires to appease the narcissist. You found yourself running around with the endless to-do list. Each and every day, that list would get longer and longer and longer. And each and every day, the narcissist would invalidate you more and more and more, or devalue you, whichever you want to say. But this relationship, from the ending of the euphoric stage, or the ending of the when everything was all puppies and rainbows stage, maybe that lasted a few weeks, few months, maybe a half year. But whenever that ended and you professed your love to the narcissist, or you moved in with them, or you relocated cities, towns, countries, states, wherever, or you loaned them money, or had kids, or got married, or created a business, whatever, any of or all of these things that you did, that's when the narcissist knew they had you. And that's when they began to slowly, insidiously devalue you. And they kept you stuck in that trance-like, zombie-like state, the narcissistic fog, where you are trying to get back to the euphoric stage. You're trying to get.
Yeah, and that's called when they lock you in, right? They lock you in. And that's the part where you're kind of locked in for whatever reason, right? And you still don't know what the hell is going on.
Get back to the days when everything was unicorns and rainbows. Remember, that was just part of the facade. That was part of the mask that the narcissist wears to get you to do what they want you to do in the beginning of the relationship. Then enter devaluation stage. And then most likely you were either discarded or you ended the relationship yourself. But either way, those are the three main parts of the narcissistic relationship. And the Hoover is the fourth part. I won't get into that during this video. My point is the narcissist wanted you to become, they wanted to turn you into them. And here's how. First of all, the narcissist wanted to take your identity from you. And they succeeded for a period of time until you found my channel, until you got the wisdom and you had your first light bulb moment. And you realized, oh my goodness, my identity was taken. And when I say that, I don't say it lightly. What I mean is you found yourself not being around the support system that you were accustomed to being because maybe you relocated, or maybe the narcissist planted so many seeds in your head that you turned against your own family, or you doubted your friends, or you doubted anybody in your support system, or perhaps the narcissist planted seeds that your job, you weren't making enough money, you needed to make more money. And then when you quit your job, you couldn't get a job. Now you were stuck. Or you quit your job, you got a different job, you didn't like the job, and you weren't making more money. The point is the narcissist does not want you being you. They want you being like them, and or they want you being something that they have molded in for you to become. Play that again. So why the narcissist wanted you to become like them? What they were doing throughout the whole relationship is they were testing your supply source, your tank of supply, meaning your empathy, your time, your money, your energy, your love, how much you would tolerate of their poor behavior throughout the relationship. That's exactly what they were doing, testing how much you would tolerate. And this is a no-win situation when you are in the relationship with the narcissist, because number one, they don't care about you as a human being. You need to get that message. I created that video yesterday or the day before. But number two, all they care about is what you supply for them, what you provide for them, what you do for them. Are you the errand boy, the pool boy, the chauffeur, the person who plans vacations, the person who pays the mortgage, the person who pays tuition, the person who makes them look good, the person who gets them from point A to point B, the person who is the sounding board, the person who is there for them during a beck and call, no matter what time of day or night they needed you, you were available. Think about it. That's what you did. And they knew that. And they were watching you decline. They were watching your health take a hit. They were definitely watching your financial resources take a hit. They were watching you fall apart right in front of their eyes. Now, you didn't really see yourself as falling apart. You just probably thought, oh, I can make more money, or my health, it's no big thing. I only saw the doctor once in the last 10 years, but I've seen the doctor 6 times this year, but it's nothing. It's no big thing. Think again. It's a huge thing. There is no such thing as a coincidence on this planet. And remember, if you were in a narcissistic relationship, that wasn't one either. However, having said that, that was something you had to go through. You had to experience it. It was a lifelong learning lesson. And why your health took a hit, most likely, is because of the weight of you carrying the relationship with the narcissist. In other words, you were doing all of the heavy lifting. All they were doing is jumping on your back and piggybacking you to destruction. That's exactly what they were doing. And they knew it. And they were guiding.
Well, it's a good thing you figured it out and got with a good guy. Definitely. You dodged the bullet. That's what I always say.
You and steering you into landmines here and there, never circumventing the landmines. They were creating drama, and they wanted you to face these drama issues head on. In other words, let's say that there's a storm coming.
They always create the drama, man.
Literally a storm, hypothetically. And the narcissist is like, hey, let's go out. Let's go to the store. We have to get some ketchup and mustard. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. There's a huge storm coming. Maybe even flash flooding. Like, why would we get ketchup and mustard? We don't need that. And they're like, no, we need it. Let's go. And you're like, who in their right mind would do this? A narcissist. But the thing is, you didn't have the wisdom back then. So what did you do? You jumped in the car. You drove through the torrential rainstorm to get to the store. And lo and behold, either A, the store was closed because they're smart enough to not be open during that huge, massive storm, or B, you get there and you get the ketchup and mustard, and then on the way home you get a flat tire, or you can't see, and maybe you get into a fender.
And there's all kinds of different examples to go with that kind of thing, right? But it's just really just kind of like, you know, you think about it, you're like, well, okay, so you end up doing it because it's important to them, for whatever reason, right? And then you kind of just go along with it. You don't ever question, like, well, this is, you know, and if you stand up for yourself, it's a whole different ball game. But I don't want to make this, I want to make this more general, so I won't go into the details. But but yeah, it's always like that, right? There's always something being stirred up, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, and then you don't really question why it doesn't make a lot of sense at the time. It's really a strange thing. It's a really strange phenomenon to be under, but it does kind of show you that you're under this kind of traumatic type of control, right? That you're not thinking right. You're not seeing things that maybe like when you're out of the traumatic experience, you can see a lot more clear. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious, but in terms of how it affects the human mind when you're under it, whether it be from an individual, group, a government, whatever, right? These same techniques are being used over and over again. And that, that's what I want you to kind of focus on, and you'll hear more of it as we go.
Bender or something. But either way, the ketchup and mustard, you didn't even need it that day because the barbecue wasn't for another week. But this is what the narcissist wants to do. This is where they want to place you. They want to place you in confusion. They want to disrupt your energy. They want you doing little tasks that have no purpose or meaning. They want you to become like them. Now think about this again. If the narcissist, many times, what would they do? Yeah, that's right. They would go out in perhaps not the best weather. They would do some things that you would be scratching your head like who? Like, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. Like, I'll tell you why, because they can't sit still.
And by the way, if you're much younger watching right now, pay close attention, or anybody, to just pay close attention to what this guy's talking about. Seriously. For your own good, if you're out there in the game, because there's a lot more people that are running around, women and men, with this condition now than ever before. And it took me dating someone 10 years younger than me to come across it. I guess in a way that was impactful. But I had gone my whole life without running into anybody like this. And the last one was just a doozy. I had no idea. I mean, I'm talking like, successful relationships and over decades, right? No problem. No problem with any, breakups for whatever reason. No problems right there. I'm still, still friends with all of them. So, and except for one, really. But one I'm forced to be in, still no. But yeah, but I'm telling you, man, guys, if you're younger, just really, really pay attention to what he's saying. Don't think that you know it. Don't think that you'll see it. Don't think that it can't happen to you. You can't be locked in, because I'm telling you, as somebody who was very successful before that, it can totally happen. And it's when you don't think it can happen that it will. So listen up. Definitely listen up.
And they need disruption, and they need to create drama and be a part of drama. And they wanted to throw you into that drama pool with them. That's what happened. So another thing, when you are tolerating all the poor behavior, let's say the gaslighting, the stonewalling, the silent treatment, smear campaign, triangulation, all these things, when you rage fits, when you experienced all of these things, you didn't know what you were up against because you did not know what these definitions were. You didn't know what the terms meant. You didn't know that individuals could think this way, let alone behave this way, and let alone play off in the same playbook. That's what they do. Now, how the narcissist becomes a narcissist, that's for a whole different video. But my point is, they all use the same playbook. It's just a matter of which page they're going to flip it to. Is it going to be page 1? Is it going to be page 21? Is it going to be page 52? I don't know. But it's all contingent upon where you are in the narcissistic cycle. Are you a person that's being showered with affection? Are you a person who's being devalued? Are you the person that tomorrow is going to be discarded? Are you the person that's going to discard the narcissist? Who knows? But they know exactly which button to press. That's why the path, when you're in these relationships, is to go no contact, block them, delete them, remove all flying monkeys and people associated with them, and just let them drift away in the past. That's the path. But if you can't do that, I understand. Each and every one of our circumstances are different. Perhaps you can utilize Grey Rock. Certainly don't share information about yourself to the narcissist or to toxic individuals. But getting back on track, there's an energy exchange here. And I've mentioned this recently, frequently on the channel, and I'll mention it again for you newbies or for people who missed this concept. What it is the narcissist is a toxic and negative energy-filled individual. And most likely what you are is a positive, abundant, beautiful, bright, shining light. An empath, perhaps. But the point being, the narcissist sized you up. They did their homework all over you, all about you. They did the reconnaissance, if you will. They researched you. They figured out what made you tick. Then they grabbed that one fateful cup of coffee on an afternoon, and you guys sat down and talked for a couple hours. But what did you do? You were asking questions to the narcissist, because let's say this is the first time you met, maybe the second time you met. You were asking them questions. What were they doing? They were deflecting the questions back onto you. So what happened then? Well, 3 hours passed and you found yourself giving them your whole life story in a nutshell, sharing too much, if you will, oversharing information. The narcissist just gave you vague answers like they usually do and say, oh, we'll talk about it some other time, or I don't want to talk about that right now, or it's complicated. But what about you? Let me hear about you. They say things like that. Next thing you know, Then they bide their time. Perhaps they take a few days or a week and they think about everything you shared with them over that 3-hour cup of coffee on an afternoon. And then what happens? This one really has a lot I can take from, which was you. And then they contact you and say, hey, let's grab dinner. Do you want to go out to dinner tomorrow night or tonight? Next thing you know, boom, the dirty fangs are sunken into you. You think that you just hit the jackpot or that this person really wants to be with you. Nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is they had time to process everything and weigh their options, because it wasn't just you who was going to be the next source of supply. They were vetting other individuals in your city, town, country, on the internet, everywhere. But you happen to be the winner. Why were you the winner? Because most likely you were an empath, but you overshared. And on top of that, they figured out rather quickly, oh, you could be a perfect person to raise the kids. You could be a great person to buy a house. You could be a great person to take me all over the globe. You could be a great person to provide for everything for myself and other
100%.
individuals, while I, behind the scenes, create a business. And I will use your money to get me, to catapult me from where I am right now, which is nowhere, to where I want to be, which is owning a business. That's exactly what you will do. And the whole time, I will devalue you, but I'll give you little breadcrumbs here and there. Perhaps even I'll marry you, who knows? But what I won't do is I won't show you my authentic, genuine self until it's time to discard you. And that won't happen for years. But in the meantime, I will play the game, and I will stay away from you for periods of time on alleged trips. And I will be with you for periods of time when it's just the two of us, so I can reinforce that trauma bond with you. Yes, that's what I'll do. And I'll do it slowly, insidiously. And when I feel you drifting away, what will I do? Oh, no. I will throw a curveball at you, a little surprise, a little ray of sunshine, a little hope of the euphoric stage, and I'll get you back. The
game's always on.
And then all the time behind the scenes, what will I be doing? What I'll be doing is looking for your replacement, which I now have multiple suitors to be your replacement, but I'm not going to pull them out just yet. I'm going to wait and see what happens with you. This is exactly how the narcissistic abusive cycle goes. But the whole time, what I will be doing is trying to crush you, to decimate you, to have you not believing in yourself, to have you believing that I know more than you, that I have all the answers. I will take your identity. I will have you become an extension of me. I will have you be running all over the town, city, country, doing errands, paying bills. I will keep you off kilter. I will make sure that you have no time to recharge your battery. Your health will take a hit. Your social circle will certainly take a hit. Your hobbies will take a hit. You will be smeared by your next door neighbors. In other words, I will smear you to your next door neighbors. I will smear you to your coworkers. Yes, your coworkers. I will do everything I possibly can to paint a picture that you are not a good individual. And the whole time I'm doing this, I will be getting supply from other sources, whether physically, intimately, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, however. But I will be doing it. Maybe it's business, but I will be getting your replacement lined up. And what will happen then? Well, the person that will be replacing you, I hope you're following me, what they will be doing is they will be so grateful to be in a relationship with me behind the scenes, just waiting to take your place, the person watching the video, that they'll do anything I want them to do. And now I have two puppets, two pawns, if you will. You, the person watching the video, and your replacement, i.e. the new supply. And what am I doing? I'm sitting in the back just gobbling this all up. This is amazing. I'm such a master manipulator. I can do anything I want. And you know what? I'm going to push the envelope a little bit further. What I'm going to do with you, the person watching the video, I'm really going to hammer you now. I'm really going to devalue you. I'm going to start attending events without you. I'm going to stop answering your texts or your replies. I'm going to really bury you in the narcissistic fog and see how much you can tolerate. And then what will happen? That's right. One day you will stand up for yourself and you will say, hey, what's going on here? Like, you're not even around anymore. Like I wake up in the morning and you're gone. I come home at night, you're not home. And you claim that you're here, here, and here. What? I don't know where you are. You don't even answer my texts. You don't communicate. What's going on? And then they say, you're so insecure. Don't be such a baby. It's no big deal. Well, what do you care where I am? What's the problem? Everyone else does this. What's the thing? I knew I shouldn't have married you, et cetera, like that. And the next thing you know, boom, discarded. That's it. You're done. Why are you done? I'll tell you why. Because over the body of the relationship, the narcissist tried to turn you into them. And that one fateful night, you stood up for yourself, and most likely you experienced reactive abuse. And you did turn into them for a period of time. Maybe it was for 2 minutes. Maybe it was for 20 minutes. Maybe it was for a whole night. Who knows? But the weight of that relationship became so cumbersome that you actually had to stand up for yourself. And when the narcissist wouldn't budge, what did you do? You said, no, this is not happening. I'm going to put up a boundary. Either you are going to be present in the relationship or this isn't going to work out. Next day, there's the moving van. Boom. Discard happens, and now you are left isolated in your own house. and you don't know what's going on. Because why? Because you don't know what the narcissistic abusive cycle is. You didn't know a person was capable of this. You thought a marriage was about give and take, about working towards the same directions, goals, dreams, aspirations. When you marry a narcissist or are in any narcissistic relationship, nothing can be further from the truth. The truth is all they want to do is make you like them. They want to consume you. They want your beautiful, bright energy into them, and they want to inject all of their negativity, their toxicity into you. And that is exactly what happens each and every day in a narcissistic relationship. And it's not until the dust has settled and you finally find that needle in a haystack, you find my channel post-relationship, when you're trying to put yourself back together, and you say, oh my gosh, that's what this was? Are you kidding me? These people exist. It's not just a person. A narcissist isn't just a person that likes to look at themselves in the mirror. No, that's just one tiny little piece of it. They do love mirrors, by the way. Believe me, they love mirrors. But the point being is that's not it. They need people to make themselves feel good about themselves. And you were one of those people for a period of time. And now they have a new supply or new supplies, or maybe they've been married for the third, fourth, fifth time now. Who knows? But what we do know is the narcissist can't change. And they do their best to have that energetic exchange, if you will.
So we're talking about this from the relationship standpoint, right? But again, I just want to remind everybody to keep it like broad, right? Look at it from a friendship standpoint. Look at it from a group standpoint. Look at it from a government standpoint, from a state, a nation standpoint. It's the same things, right? So like some of the things he was talking about, like identity stripping and confusion and fog and all that, these are all things that we can see in bigger institutions in our society. So they all follow. That's what I'm saying, that this is a cycle of abuse that enables the corruption that keeps the cycle of control going on. And until we kind of like learn how to drill down on the root causes of the individual actions that are happening that sustain it, right? We can have all the great ideas in the world, but it doesn't change anything, and it won't change this thing that's going on, right? So it's about the generational approach. Like, just imagine this education this guy's giving right here. He had to go through some shit to get it, right? And unfortunately, that's the way it goes these days, because people don't think that it's important because it's never happened to them, or because they can't put they can't grasp it, right? But those who have been through it, who's been through the traumatic experience, right? They understand it well. And so it doesn't really get the immediate attention it needs. Like, if we were to take like the woke education that's going on in schools today, all this gender confusion and identity stripping that's going on, right? Which is very narcissistic. Now you can see the pattern here. And we were to remove it and put in education about this right here. Like, this is what broke. We have to learn about why some people aren't good in this world, and why some people have issues in this world. We teach it at a younger age, so there's more defense against these irreparable behaviors. A whole generation grows up not acting this way, right? That's the idea. And then when a whole generation is rejecting what the narcissistic generation has gotten away with for so long, these people that are like this, when they can't function anymore, we've removed the enablement. That's the whole thing I'm talking about. Like, the only reason an abuser can abuse is because they have the enablement to do it. And it's about understanding it and recognizing it and seeing through the veil that give us the ability to move past it into the solution culture that we need to help solve this problem, at least reduce it to a quiet rumble, right, if you will, not an epidemic on display.
To inject their toxic negativity into you and perhaps turn you into a full-time narcissist, or certainly not a person you used to be. And then they want to steal your bright light. They want you pining for them. They want you thinking about them. They want you trapped in the narcissistic fog. They don't want you to escape that web of manipulation. However, there are people that break through it. There are people that figure it out, and there are people that heal over a long period of time. There are people that put a mountain of work into themselves, and that they rise through the ashes like a phoenix, and they understand they are the priority. They come first, second, and third. These are the people that needed to get the answers. Because remember, the narcissist won't give you closure. They know that. They want everything they want the relationship to end with a thud, a crash, a bang, on their terms, not on your terms. And in their feeble, tiny little pea brain, what they will say is, yep, I got this one. How many is that now during my life? Oh, that's 6 people I've destroyed. Wow, I'm only X number of years old. At this rate, I could probably do about 24 people. I could probably really crush people. And those numbers are very light, by the way. Having said all these things, the narcissist wanted to turn you into them. They really did. and for a period of time, perhaps you did experience reactive abuse. You did turn into a not kind, loving individual for a period of time. The reason why is because you were forced. Your hand was forced. Something had to give in that relationship. Either the narcissist would turn good, which is never going to happen, meaning they would start giving you authenticity and genuineness and love and all that, but they can't give any of that because they don't possess those traits. Or B, you would get so beaten down and worn down, your physical health was taking a hit, you're in credit card debt up to your eyeballs, etc. And relationships were blowing up left and right because the narcissist was driving wedges between you and everybody. That's when you stood up for yourself, and that's when the discard happened. That's an example. The point being, the narcissist does want to turn you into them. They want you being down in the low vibrational quagmire state where they live and they exist. They never want you existing on a high vibrational state which is natural for you. They try to take you down, and they did for a period of time, but ultimately you rose as high up as you possibly can, and that's where you belong. That's where you will always be once you get the wisdom. So guys, that's the video. I hope you liked it.
Oh, sorry. I'm sitting here talking with the mute on. Sorry about that. Oh man. No, okay. So, what I was saying is that that was I guess I was out from the beginning, huh? Okay, so anyways, what I was saying was, we can hear the concept he's talking about in that on the personal level, right? But on a broader level, we can start to see the same traits exist, right? And that it takes broken people to do broken things. So, when you're broken, you're desperate, you're bought into the narrative so hard that you believe this little narrow view of the world, right? That you'll execute on command these things, right? You just create more of the same thing. More broken people that'll do this, that'll perpetuate the lies, that'll stand in to be the mouthpieces of corruption and for the agenda that inevitably brings harm and divides people, right? They have to. This is the corruption that's in the system. That's what I'm trying to tell you is that all these different pieces are corrupted pieces that come off as a result of these institutions that are involved right in this, and these different manufactured ideas and so on that keep people trapped in these narratives about the world instead of seeing it for what it really is. And I think that's a lot of mind control and a lot of generational abuse going on, to just say all we have to do is everybody take go this way at the same time, right? It's a bigger problem that could be solved than just by one big idea. It takes a lot of different effort, and this is what it's about. It's about understanding it at the granular level, right? So that you could actually create a real workable solution to some of these root cause issues, right? And then when you have a root cause solution, right, you've disabled the problem. You've corrected the problem, and it should not persist, right? That's the idea. It's a very technical way of putting it, but the That's the idea, right? So when you hear him talk about the type of micro abuse going on, right, in individual relationships these days, right, by unsuspecting people, right, coming off these broken people that are taking some kind of thrill in this, are needing some kind of psychological value from it. We can see that they're more than willing to participate in some of the worst things that are going on in society that cause harm to others, right? Subvert the young, right? That keep people living in fear and that break the future. And you can see how that benefits this generational corruption, benefits the global ownership class is, basically what I've named it. It's just the elitists in the world, right? They could be anybody. It's like I think that I feel like this is so vague. This is part of it, right? But it's really just the elitists, people who buy into elitism on a psychological level, right? And this is the part that's very normalized for them because they control the reality, right? And what they work towards is control of everything. Your money, the markets, thoughts, uh, trends, culture, right? Your labor, right? Your mental health, their generational wealth, the funds to do things, warfare, things like that, right? Things that really cause mass trauma and keep them in business. And what do they get? They get generational control. They have a generational control strategy like in place to control planetary resources and to dominate you from cradle to grave. Well, those things are conspiracies as much as just results from all the things that they do, right? They don't have to really sit around a big table with a skull in the middle of it and have, a trans-dimensional Satan come bounding in the room to give them orders on what to do for this to all go off. You can hear me now, right? Yeah, I'm back. Yeah. So how do we avoid narcissists like X? I started my new job, learning things about these new people. I'd rather not connect in a personal way or fall into relying on them because of theirs. Yeah, I know. I don't blame you. Billy, yeah. No, I got you. I got you on this. But anyways, we're gonna move on. I'm gonna answer you in 1 second. But I wanted to kind of make sure I finished up here. Um, so so the point is like by having the system abuse, it does cause a destabilization and a demoralization. It has a natural kind of pattern to it, right? And which is easily adopted if you're going to be into you know, the political game, I guess, is like nation building. This ideological subversive method was based on these things that are just already there. Psychological warfare is another name for it. That's the reason why. The things that they've learned through trial and error on us. So when we look at the problems in our society, like racism and division and things like that, I think like Corey was saying, like you could always blame that on statism, right? Well, who's the state? These guys. So if it was not these guys, maybe we would have a better world and we can work on some real solutions. But they have this generational control going on because they institute generational warfare, right? So we're starting to unveil the solutions here in the sense that we understand that in order to win the game, we must understand the game. And the game is generational. Now, what can we do in our lifetimes, as our generations are together, is we can start to figure out the problems by analyzing them and not looking for anybody else to solve them for us, but also to understand where where these things are enabled from, right? How do they get these things and how do they maintain them? And what are the things that we can do to without going head on where they have all the resources and control over everything and bringing society to a crippling halt. And then when people are desperate for solutions, they grasp onto whatever shows up with the best, deal in town or the most power, right? We've seen that over and over again. That ain't gonna work. But this generational control. So, anyways, let me say this. It starts with resetting, understanding what's broken from the ground up, right? And then resetting that. At the same time, continuing to fight forward and the ability to get some kind of foothold into the government so we can possibly get as much corruption out of that as we possibly can. That seems to be going on, right? It just we have to keep our eye on the ball. We can't go to sleep on that because that controls the guns and the money and the resources and the decisions whether the trucks run or not. Um, these are things we can be working on. We can work on this by making sure we understand who we're voting for and that we do participate, at least for now, guys, at least for now, until we get a better handle on the situation. If anything, a lot of times what happens here is it kind of like puts the brakes on things for a minute, right? If you see Trump came in and reverses a bunch of things that they liked, right? So even if you don't like him or you don't think that whatever, at least it bought us some time, right? And that's why I think a lot of it has to do with buying us time, because as long as you can keep pushing their plans back a little bit by taking their main mechanism for doing it out of the way, then you're kind of winning some years back there to work on the problems more and get more of a generational thing going on. Reforming for the future is all about preparing the up and coming generation for a better tomorrow with the right information, right? Freeing them from the veils these veils are born into, pulling these things down early. And to go in, I think this is a good lead into this question right here, which is Caitlin asked, how do I avoid narcissists? You can't avoid them. They're everywhere. I mean, you can get away from them, I guess, but it's just a matter of really just living your own purpose, you got your family, you got your daughter, and you ain't got time for anything but that. And that's the way it is, man. And if you got friends and they're good friends, they'll be friends if they start to play games with you. Just get busy real fast. Don't get so far in that you have to go to the drama of having just to do like Andy was saying, like when you do you figure out you're in the middle of it, something like that. you gotta ghost out, man. You got to cut off all ties and cut off all enablement ties, and that's how you really clear out that shit. It's when you realize that they don't validate you, and nobody else are talking who does either. It's a big big tool in the toolbox, to understand that, because it makes it real easy. But when you're in the middle of it, it may seem a lot more important. It may seem that's why I like to do the 1 year, 5 year, 10-year thing, where I say, what is this going to mean to me in a year? What is this going to mean to me in 5 years? What's it going to mean to me in 10 years? And when I get that kind of clarity, I'm just like, yeah, you know what? You know what? It's a little bit easier now, right? But in the middle of it, it may seem like everything, right? So it's just getting that clarity, stepping back, remembering what's important, starting with self-respect, and then putting things in perspective again. It really helps. That's some of my best advice to people, I guess, that are going through it at the time, is just to do those things, right? And it seems to always work, especially the looking ahead, 1, 5, 10, right? Oops. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, don't worry about it. The people at work. You can easily put up like, oh, we're busy. Oh, we're doing this. Me and a husband, me and a kid. You got all that. You don't have to get highly involved with people at work. And sure, just don't let on much about. Don't give them much things to go on. And if they insist on things to go on, give them light things to go on. It's the day in and day out things that when you start to really open up about everything. And then you get into they want to talk about their relationship, so you feel like you can talk about your relationship, and you don't even all that stuff. Talk about intimate things with their family, so you'll talk about intimate things with your family. You don't have to do that stuff. You can always be business and just be on it and be on your mission, be on your purpose, and people can't argue with that. So yeah, Lady Autumn says, "Yep, you have to cut them off cold, even if you share kids." With one I had by turn, you put my parenting plan. Only communication is through text or email, so everything is documented. I hear you, man. I hear you. I think everybody has their own situation, and if you're like, if you caught on that fast and were able to identify it really quickly, that could be a thing too. I know that if I could have done it a little bit quicker, I probably would have done it a little bit differently. I would have been a lot more driven and getting us, me and him, out of that situation much earlier. Um, but again, when you're in the middle of it, it's a whole different game. It's a whole different thing. It's not as clear as sitting here today talking, thinking about it. It's a lot more going on. And there's still that, still very optimistic minded hearted too. You got to fight off that at the same time, you know. It's just a lot. It's a lot. But if you can do that, do it. If you have the knowledge now, it's easier. And the best thing in the world is just to understand that it's out there and not get involved too deeply in it in the first place, right? Um, it's tough, man, and that's why I talk about it, and I'm going to bring it up as a big problem, and that it relates to a lot of things. It's the whole way that it works. It's baked into a lot of things because I would like a better world for the kids. Like I'd like a better world for my family to come in, and healthy relationships for everybody. That people don't have to run around worrying about shit like this. They should know about it so they can, and get out of it sooner. But at the same time, I like a world where this is like a rarity versus an epidemic. It's just like it's really out of hand to the point where you're seeing some of the results of it, right? So you get the passport bros, people want it, and it's really, I don't know how worldwide it is. I mean, I hear different stories, but it seems to be very, very, very concentrated in this area. It makes you wonder why when all this shit's out here, doesn't it? This is the world that we kind of live in, man. All these things exist around us. They're all part of this narrative we live in, this society we live in, right? And people are always trying to fight for this reality, right? Every day is a fight for reality. That's what we got to be, winning reality, man. That's what the whole channel is about. Like, there's the secret, right? um, is that every day is a fight for reality, and it's people like this that are trying to own it, right? And there's people like this that are trying to reform it, and make it better, and change it for good, right? And there's people like this that are participating in the perpetuation of it, and there are people like this that are just trying to look for answers, and there's people like this that are just going along with it, and there's everybody. So where are we going to be, right? We're going to be over here, and we got to do the things that are going to make these things go away. All four of these veils can change. They don't have. This isn't the way that it has to be. It's the way that it is. Let's see. Yeah, I didn't see it for a long time. It took me years to get away from my ex-husband. See, it took me 4 years to finally get out, and I was with him for 15. We have kids. Oh wow, yeah. Well, yeah, that sounds not as long as me, but it was like 10 or so, and then the last 4 was like trying to figure out how to get this thing out, off and going with a few, boomerangs in there. Um, but eventually it did. Eventually it did. To tell you, it took the well, I won't go into it, but it eventually did. And now that I know what I know, it's gonna be good from now on, man. At least best as I could possibly be. But yeah, so he makes a good point about that, right? And here's another one. Um, this one is like, you weren't supposed to figure them out, right? And it kind of goes into what happens when you I'm trying to debate whether to play this or not. You guys want to watch another Andrew video? I think it illustrates a good point. I know there's a reason why I wanted to play it. But I don't want to. How long have we been going? Oh, 2:20. Time is it? Okay, 10:24. But I didn't want to go. I was trying to keep this around 2 hours a night. But hey, we had good discussions and stuff too, like with the guy stopping by to comment on the early stuff, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate the willingness for people to come in here and share their ideas, and to have this conversation. There's a lot to talk about, and it's to breaking down reality and all the things that are going on around it. How it's controlled, the things we've grown up with, and the things that we can do. It's a big topic to cover. There's a lot of things you gotta cover on that. So Yeah, I do appreciate everybody that comes and hangs out, and it's part of this discussion here. And I'm gonna look around here and see what's going down. Let's see. And I'm probably gonna say that I think the first one kind of did it justice. I'd like to play the second one. Let's see. We got a little bit of time. Cool. Sorry, I had some noise in the background there. uh, Good info for sure. Thank you so much. But we have talked about a lot of things too. So maybe we just ran out of time for that video. I'll save that video for another time. And next time it comes up, I don't want to. I'm kind of debating. Like I'm being wishy-washy, but I'm gonna go ahead and just say we're good for now. I'm gonna look for the somebody to send this over to that I would like to support here. Let's see. Let's get this right. Let's see what's on. Kaiser's live. I'm not sure what he's talking about. Let's see who else is there. That's the only one that's live. Okay, Kaiser it is. You're going to Kaiser Pineapple. Upcoming guest. So enjoy the ride. Tell them Winning sent you. Let me get this up here. And guys, thank you so much for being here tonight. This is fun. This is like getting back to basics night. I want to mix this kind of night in with nights that are have guests on and cover topics and whatnot. All right, we're good to go. Here we go. Okay, here we go, guys. Hey, thanks so much for being here, guys. And until next time, keep on winning. Oh yeah, tomorrow afternoon, T-Rex Trucking and me, 18 wheeling across America, afternoon stream. Be sure to check it out.